Fans pictured dream matches with the rivals who defined him, chapters that stitched his past to the present, a year-long journey where every arena felt like history was being written one last time. What they got was something else. A wasted heel turn, hyped as the reinvention fans had waited years for, only to collapse into nothing. A feud with Logan Paul built on skits so awkward they turned into memes. A WrestlePalooza match with Lesnar, where Cena wasn't honored, he was humiliated, flattened in minutes, erased from his own stage. The tour became a string of experiments and half-hearted detours, matches that felt like filler instead of farewell, storylines that cut off before they mattered. Even Cena seemed to see it, posting on social media, calling out AJ Styles and others, as if he was trying to force WWE's hand into giving him the story he deserved. The company had the keys to history. Cena's last ride could have been a living Hall of Fame, a path through the rivalries that defined him, the legends who stood across from him, the moments that built the empire. Instead, it became a warning, a reminder of what happens when legacy is put in the hands of people more focused on sponsorships and headlines than the meaning of the story itself. The fans never stopped singing. They never stopped holding the signs or chanting his name. But the frustration sat beneath it all. The realization that WWE had the chance to give their greatest star the farewell he earned, and they squandered it. John Cena deserved a finale that stood as tall as his career. That's how WWE ruined John Cena's retirement tour. The curtain rose on John Cena's final year, with the weight of expectation pressing down on every arena. For 20 years, he had been the company's foundation. Through the ruthless aggression years, the PG era, the empty arenas of injury layoffs, and the divided crowds chanting "Cena sucks," he endured everything. He carried WWE through financial lows, through creative droughts, through eras where new icons faltered, and through backlash that would have ended most careers. When he declared that 2025 would mark the end, fans imagined a retirement tour sculpted from legacy itself, a farewell worthy of the man who never stepped out of the ring without leaving part of himself behind. The year began with fireworks. Cena stepped back into the spotlight at the Royal Rumble. Whispers filled arenas. Maybe he would tie Austin's record, maybe march toward a WrestleMania redemption. Fans dreamed of rivalries revisited, a final war with Randy Orton, a showdown with CM Punk, a passing of the torch against Cody Rhodes, or a poetic face-off with Roman Reigns, or Seth Rollins. Instead, Cena's first major arc pivoted toward the long-rumored heel turn, eliminated at the Rumble by Jey Uso, then leaning into bitterness at the Elimination Chamber. Cena finally gave the crowd what they had demanded for years. At first, it felt dangerous. His promos dripped with venom. He spit on the code of hustle and respect. The wrestling world buzzed. For a brief moment, Cena the superhero had transformed into the monster fans had wanted since 2006. But the danger never lasted. The Rock, pivotal to anchoring the turn, vanished after one appearance. Without him, heel Cena wandered aimlessly, chasing cheap heat with crowd insults, his new edge dulled by confused creative. WrestleMania 41, cruel waste of time. His match with Orton arrived without build-up, a throwaway. CM Punk was sent to him as part of a Saudi spectacle, stripped of weight. By SummerSlam, the turn had crumbled. Cena flipped back to a face, with no explanation. The grand gamble was abandoned, remembered only as a squandered chance in a year where chances were everything. Then came the matches. Logan Paul was chosen as Cena's showcase feud, a decision that split the fan base. To some, Logan symbolized WWE's future, digital buzz, crossover appeal. To many more, it felt hollow. The build was clumsy, awkward brawls, a viral clip of Logan throwing laughable punches. What should have been a chapter in Cena's farewell played out like a publicity stunt. Fans mocked it online, compared it to parody. WWE had handed Cena to Logan Paul, chasing headlines instead of history. The true low point came at WrestlePalooza, WWE's first premium show with ESPN. The stage was massive, billed as a defining moment in Cena's last act. His opponent, Brock Lesnar. No demand, no story, no build-up. Cena entered flanked by children, but the match ended in minutes. Lesnar crushed him, a squash that left the crowd stunned, not in awe, but in anger. Reports suggested Cena had originally been booked to win, but the finish was changed. There was no rematch, no continuation. Cena was discarded, a footnote in Lesnar's fading resume, erased from his own retirement tour. Fans were left demanding answers. Where was the celebration of legacy? Where were the callbacks to the rivals who defined him? AJ Styles, Roman Reigns, Edge? The answers never came. WWE used Cena as a promotional tool, not as a legend closing his final chapter. His matches were isolated events, disconnected from his story. He became a cameo in his own farewell. Online, frustration boiled over. Fans accused Triple H of sabotaging Cena's run. Analysts labeled it directionless, a patchwork of wasted chances. Even Cena seemed restless, posting cryptic teases for matches the company had no plans to deliver. The aura of control, the sense WWE always knew how to sculpt history, was gone. What should have been a farewell tour crafted with reverence became another corporate experiment. This was not the story of triumph or celebration. It was a story of squandered possibilities, a heel turn wasted, a Logan Paul feud mocked, a Brock Lesnar squash that stripped the meaning away. The man who carried WWE through its darkest years was forced into empty spectacle, and the fans, once divided in their chants, now stood united, not in rejection, but in anger at what had been taken from him. The lights dim, but not in tribute. They hang heavy, like judgment. The crowd waits for the closure that never comes, and Cena, the man who gave his body to this empire, keeps walking forward, even as the script around him crumbles. Many legends have stepped into the light, never knowing that the day they walked through the curtain would be their last. The bell rings, the match ends, and the fans never get to say their final goodbye. But with John Cena, we hold a golden ticket, a rare chance to witness his final dance. Knowing that, as a man of his word, when he calls it quits, he will never lace the boots again. It's bittersweet, the kind of ache only wrestling fans understand, because we aren't just saying farewell to a superstar. We're saying farewell to the man who carried an era on his back, and a generation of fans in his shadow. Yet the realization does not soften the sadness, it sharpens it, and WWE has only made it worse with the way they have booked his final few appearances. The night after WrestlePalooza, the chants told the story better than commentary ever could. Cena walked through the curtain, his body battered, his spirit weighed down, and the audience roaring his name louder than they had in years. These were not the split reactions that defined his prime. No Cena sucks, to balance, let's go Cena. This was pure loyalty. A crowd united, not because WWE had honored him, but because they had failed him. Fans saw a man who had given them 2 decades, only to be disrespected in his final hour, and they rose up in defiance. It was the great irony of Cena's retirement run. The fan base that once rejected him became his fiercest defenders. The same people who waved "Cena sucks" signs for a decade now raged online that Triple H was sabotaging the farewell. Fans weren't just watching Cena anymore. They were fighting for him, against the company that refused to give him the farewell he had earned, and the missed matches haunted every arena. AJ Styles stood in the wings, healthy, vocal, ready for one more classic. Their 2016 feud had been one of the greatest of Cena's career. Storytelling and athletic artistry fused together. Fans begged for a final chapter, chanting AJ Styles whenever Cena appeared. Seth Rollins carried his own history, once holding Cena's US Championship hostage, once cashing in the heist that changed WWE forever. A Rollins-Cena collision could have framed the torch being passed. Edge lingered too, the rated R superstar who had defined an entire era of rivalry with Cena. That feud begged for closure. Even tied to AEW, Edge and Cena found ways to needle each other, performing each other's moves on rival shows, throwing shadows across companies. Their story never really died, it only lacked a bow, but none of it came to fruition. After the backlash from fans over the Lesnar match, and Cena's own frustration, visible in social media, in his tone, in his eyes, WWE finally pivoted. They gave the people what they had been asking for, Styles versus Cena, but even that felt hollow. A throwaway clash on a C-tier PLE like crown jewel. There was no build, no story, and with no dates available on Cena's schedule until then, it looked less like a carefully crafted finale and more like a quick booking, just to say it happened. Tension between fans and company only grew. Every arena Cena entered, chants in his support grew louder. Boos for management shook the rafters, and Cena himself stood in the middle. He smiled through the boos aimed at WWE. He cut promos with the same grit and polish that defined him. But fans saw the cracks. His cryptic online posts, his subtle jabs in interviews, even his body language in the ring. It all hinted at a man who wanted more, a man who had expected his final year to be stitched together with history, not squandered on experiments. This time, the revolt wasn't against Cena. It was against the company that failed to honor him. Every missed match became a symbol. Every squandered opportunity an open wound. Cena's legacy loomed too large to be ignored. And yet WWE seemed determined to reduce it to corporate afterthoughts. The people saw it. They felt it. and their voices became the soundtrack of his final year, echoing with one demand: give John Cena the farewell he deserves. Every era ends the same way, quietly. Not with a title reign, not with a scripted twist, with time. And John Cena's time is finally running short. The man who stood unshaken through 20 summers, 20 WrestleManias, 20 years of burden, is now wrestling with something he cannot overcome: the final bell. His body tells the story before his words ever could. 2 decades of punishment, torn shoulders, shattered knees, a spine rebuilt by surgeons. Every step to the ring now feels heavier, yet he still walks it. Not because the company deserves it, but because the people do. But before the curtain falls, one question remains. Who will be John Cena's last opponent? Could it be Edge, slipping free with only a month and a half left on his AEW contract? Could it be Roman Reigns, the Conqueror? Seth Rollins, the architect who betrayed him? Cody Rhodes, the heir chasing immortality? Gunther, the modern Colossus? Or will WWE gamble on a newcomer, using Cena's name to forge another? Will he lose, passing the torch with grace? Or will he walk away with victory, like Sting, leaving on his own terms? Or worst of all, will WWE force him into the ending nobody wants? One last match with Brock Lesnar. The story isn't finished. No fireworks, no grand send-off, no fairy tale ending. What we've seen so far isn't the farewell fans imagined. For 20 years, John Cena's final goodbye will become something more than a storyline. It will become history. The kind no script can write, the kind no corporation can own, the kind etched forever in the voices that once booed and now only chant his name. Because John Cena was never just a champion. He was the standard. He was the weight bearer. He was the constant. And when the final bell rings, his legacy will not fade. It will live forever in the heart of every person who never gave up. If you felt this, hit like, subscribe for more, and click on screen to keep the story alive.